Monkey is written and directed by Oz Perkins and is based on the Stephen King short story or novella or novel, whatever it may be. And this stars Theo James in the lead role. He's actually playing a dual role in this. When twin brothers Hal and Bill discover their father's old monkey toy in the attic, a series of gruesome deaths starts occurring all around them. Oz Perkins wrote and directed last year's Longlegs. While I think Longlegs is slightly better than this movie, I still really had a good time with The Monkey. I thought that this was still a really good movie from Oz Perkins. It doesn't feel like your typical horror movie. There's so many things that draw you into this, particularly its old-fashioned feel. It just has that film grain to it, and it feels like you're watching a movie that was made in the late 70s, early 80s, maybe even the late 60s. And that visual aesthetic just sets up an entire sense of dread throughout this entire film for the characters. And it sets up so many gruesome kills that I thought were really, really good. Kind of disturbingly funny in that regard. This movie is a lot funnier than I also thought it would be. There are so many lines of dialogue I was gut busting laughing at. And I actually was kind of concerned about that as the movie was going on, but it had a good balance between keeping the disturbing tone and the comedy, because it was like disturbingly funny. It was that kind of dark comedy that you would expect from a horror movie, but horror movies don't really do. And I know that horror movies having comedy nowadays is kind of a bad thing. People look at it as, why is there comedy in horror? Why am I watching a horror comedy? I wouldn't necessarily classify this as a horror comedy, but there's this sense of dread throughout this entire movie, especially when you're following the main character, Hal, played magnificently by Theo James. This is by far the best thing I've seen him in. This is his best performance. He's come a long way from being in those really shitty Divergent movies. Well, the first one wasn't bad, but after that, they got kind of bad. And I feel like I haven't seen him in a long time. Has he made anything between the Divergent movies and this? Like, it feels like he went away for a while. And just the sense of dread that comes with his character. He knows that this monkey is evil, and the dread you feel as a viewer, at least I felt it. Because, listen, I never had one of these monkey things when I was little, and I never wanted to, because I thought that they were creepy and it would do shit like this as it does in the movie. But what really made me stand firm with this movie, what really got me on the side of this thing, is that the kills were really good. Unexpected ways to die, a variety of ways that people are killed in this movie, and it doesn't feel like it's going too far over the top. It feels as if it is as disturbing as it is trying to make it out to be, with a touch of black comedy in there. Going back to what I was saying about this movie feeling old-fashioned as well. This doesn't play out like your typical modern day horror movie where there's a possessed object. That object might sense some people in a room and it starts killing people in a room, and people have to figure out like what the hell's going on, and they realize that it's this possessed object or this cursed object. That's not how this movie plays out, and I gotta give a lot of credit to Oz Perkins for that. I don't know how much of this movie is actually adapted straight from Stephen King's short story or novella or novel, whatever it may be. Obviously, he has to take artistic licenses when you're adapting a story from a video game or a book, whatever type of medium it may be, but he really puts his own stamp on here, and that's what makes Oz Perkins such a great filmmaker. And I cannot wait to see what else he does within the horror genre, or if he's even going to branch out past the horror genre. It just feels like all of his ideas are so original, or he takes the basic concept, which again, I don't even know if he did this for this movie. He just took a basic concept and just turned it into his own thing. I mean, he could have done that for this movie. That entire Stephen King story could be so much different. And then he just took the baseline idea and made it his own thing. And Longlegs was so good. This movie was so good. I think he's directed a couple of other movies that I really actually want to check out now. But he's 2 for 2 in my books. I guess my only issue with this movie is that it's just not as scary as it probably should be. And people said that about Longlegs, which I thought Longlegs, it had kind of the same mood, I will say. That kind of like grungy, dreadful mood to it, without ever being fully scary. I think Oz Perkins is as much of a household name now that Longlegs was so successful and people were talking about Longlegs for such a long time that they will go and see The Monkey. And I think that expectations will be reserved a little bit, because they'll know. They'll be like, that's the guy that made Long Legs. Long Legs wasn't that scary. But I do wish that he took it a step further and did make it a little bit scarier in certain parts. There were a couple of moments where I was like, oh, damn, okay, nice jump scare there, but it didn't have that scariness to it that I think it probably should have. But it does have that dread. It does have that grungy feel to it. It feels very old fashioned, not your typical modern horror movie. And it's shot very beautifully with a great performance from Theo James. I really enjoyed The Monkey with a full bucket of popcorn. So, guys, what do you think of The Monkey? Let me know in the comments section below if you have seen it. I'm getting this out to you about a week early. I think it comes out next week. I went to one of those AMC early access screenings. So, there you go. I got this out to you early. When you do see it, let me know what you think of it in the comments below. I'll leave my link to my website in the description below as well. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I will see you at the movies somewhere.